They all thought he was just a janitor, someone invisible, someone who didn't matter, until one quiet night, he sat beside a dying patient, and what happened next made an entire hospital question everything they believed. Backhand index pointing right before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Shadow Tales, because stories like this deserve to be felt, not just heard. The night shift at St. Mercy Hospital was always heavy with silence, but not the peaceful kind. It was the kind that pressed against your chest, the kind filled with unspoken fears, fading heartbeats, and the quiet acceptance of those who knew they might not see the morning. Among the nurses, doctors, and machines there was one man no one paid much attention to. His name was Samuel. He was the janitor. Every night, Samuel walked the same halls, pushing his worn cleaning cart. His uniform was always clean but faded, his shoes old but polished. He moved quietly, almost like a ghost. Present, but unnoticed. The staff rarely spoke to him beyond quick nods. Some didn't even know his name. To them, he was just part of the background, like the flickering fluorescent lights or the hum of hospital equipment. But Samuel noticed everything. He noticed the trembling hands of patients trying to hold on. He noticed the tears wiped quickly by nurses in empty corridors. He noticed the families who stayed too long, and those who didn't stay long enough. And then there was room 312. Inside that room was Mr. Harris, an elderly man who had been admitted weeks ago. No visitors. No calls. No flowers. Just silence. At first, Samuel only passed by, as he did with every room. But one night, he heard something, a faint, broken whisper. "Is someone there?" Samuel paused. He wasn't supposed to enter patient rooms unless cleaning was required. That was the rule. And rules, in a place like this, were important. But something about that voice. He slowly opened the door. Mr. Harris lay in bed, frail and pale, his eyes searching the empty room. "I thought I heard someone," the old man said weakly. Samuel hesitated, then stepped inside. "Just me, sir. I'm the janitor." For a moment, Mr. Harris simply looked at him. And then, something unexpected happened. He smiled. "Well, I'm glad it's you." That night, Samuel stayed longer than he should have. He didn't clean. He didn't move. He just sat beside the bed. They talked. At first, it was small things. The weather, the hospital food, the way nights felt longer when you were alone. But slowly, the conversation deepened. Mr. Harris spoke about his life, about the family he had lost touch with, about mistakes he wished he could undo, about the quiet fear of dying alone. Samuel listened. Not like someone doing a job. Not like someone waiting for their shift to end. But like someone who truly cared. Night after night, Samuel returned. He would finish his duties quickly, then slip into room 312. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they sat in silence. Sometimes Mr. Harris would drift off to sleep while Samuel remained there, just present. The nurses began to notice. "Why is the janitor always in that room?" one of them whispered. "Isn't that against policy?" another replied. But no one stopped him. Because something about it felt right. Still, none of them could have imagined what would happen next. It was just past 2 a.m. when the monitors in room 312 began to change. A nurse passing by noticed the irregular rhythm and rushed inside. Within seconds, the room filled with urgency. Doctors were called, equipment was prepared, voices grew tense. Mr. Harris was slipping. "Where's his family?" a young nurse asked. Another shook her head. "He doesn't have anyone." But someone spoke up. "He's not alone." They all turned. Samuel was already there. No one had seen him enter. He stood quietly by the bed, his usual calm presence somehow cutting through the chaos. "Sir?" Samuel said gently, stepping closer. "I'm here." Mr. Harris's eyes fluttered open. For a brief moment, the panic in the room seemed to fade. His gaze found Samuel, and something changed. His breathing steadied slightly, his expression softened. You came, he whispered. Of course I did, Samuel replied, his voice steady but filled with warmth. You're not alone. The staff slowed down, not because they had to, but because they felt something they couldn't explain. Samuel reached out and took the old man's hand. And then, something remarkable happened. The tension in Mr. Harris's face disappeared. The fear that had gripped him for days melted away. Tears filled the eyes of a nurse standing nearby. No machines changed dramatically. No miracle cure appeared. But something deeper occurred. Peace. Real, undeniable peace. Mr. Harris took one final breath, and then, gently, he was gone. The room fell silent. No one spoke for several seconds. Doctors lowered their heads. Nurses wiped their eyes. And at the center of it all stood Samuel, still holding the man's hand, as if honoring something sacred. Finally, a senior doctor broke the silence. He didn't die alone. It wasn't a question. It was a realization. All eyes turned to Samuel. For the first time, they didn't see a janitor. They saw a man who had given something none of them, despite all their training and expertise, had thought to give. Presence. Compassion. Humanity. From that night on, things changed. Staff greeted Samuel by name. They spoke to him. They respected him. Because they understood something they hadn't before. Sometimes, the most important role in a hospital isn't saving a life. It's making sure someone feels seen before they lose it. And the man no one noticed became the one no one would ever forget.